coming to you live from a train coming to Heathrow Airport, and I'm not being ironic when I say catching a flight can cost you $100. Here's the thing, and if you're watching the replay, just let me know in the comments that you're watching this as a replay, and if you've seen it live, I'd love to see who's actually watching this live because it's almost midday. It's 11:40 or 20 minutes to 12 at London, so it's just about 12 noon London time, which means that the people that are watching this are probably going to be in Europe or in this time zone. So maybe you're in South Africa, maybe in Europe. Let me know if you're watching this. I was discussing something this morning with my IT expert who is extremely good at finding out what people are actually looking for in the Australian property market. When we did the figures, when we looked at what people are really looking for, what they're searching for, I realized that it wasn't the suburb location, it wasn't the biggest house in the block, it wasn't the highest renovation potential or the difference in what you could do with sweat equity or with elbow grease to increase it. The difference is that people are stuck in Australia, specifically in Sydney, in Brisbane and in Melbourne, which are the three more expensive capital cities. They're stuck not being able to buy a home. And if you're looking at a $3 million home, that difference in not being able to do it straight away means that on 3 months or 6 months. But if the property price goes up by 10%, which in the Sydney Eastern Suburbs, it has been going up quite steadily at least 10% every year. What that means to you is that after 6 months on a $3 million house, you've lost $150,000 that you've lost, that you can't recover. A standard 1 year wait, even if your median price in Sydney is 1.17 million, you've lost $117,000 just by catching flights, just by going on holidays, just by not taking action on buying. So what do people say? What's the excuse? And I'm not here to rub salt in the wound. What I'm trying to explain is that there is an easier way, and the people that have been around property and real estate for a while know this. It's called rent to buy. Some people call it a sandwich deal or a wrap, but the basic, the non-jargon way of explaining it is if you can afford to pay the rent, let's say your rent is going to be $900 a week. If you put aside an additional $300, that cost, and you're signing up for a 6-month lease, that cost goes towards a contract with an extended settlement. That means, yes, you've decided what house, or what unit, what apartment you want to buy. You put that as a dollar amount against your savings and you work out, yes, you can afford it. And the only thing that's going to stop you is probably that either your tax return's not done, or your family situation is complicated, or maybe you've just started a job and so it means that you're still on a probation period of work, so you're not quite comfortable at putting the money down. But when you do a longer lease, when you do let's say a 6-month lease, that $300, 6 months is 26 weeks. Let's say 30 times 300 is 9,000. So that $9,000 becomes an option fee. What that means to the agent is that the agent still gets paid, but the selling agent might get paid a little bit later. So we can negotiate to make sure that the agent gets paid early, because otherwise they're not going to like the deal, so they're going to put a block to it. It means that the owner is getting a fair price for their property, and you're just delaying the ownership by 6 months. So instead of signing and owning in 42 days, you sign, you live in it, and then in 6 months' time, once your paperwork is, the ink is dry, your paperwork is settled, your taxes are done, then you own the property, and the money that you've spent as rent and the money that you've spent as the extra $300 gets split into two. The $300 extra just goes towards the fee, the $9,000, but the money that you paid as rent has been agreed that it would be your deposit. So we're talking about $900 a week. Say 900 times 30 weeks is 4,500 with a zero, so $45,000. That becomes your deposit. So the rent you've paid is lost money. It's not like you've been procrastinating for 6 months. You've been getting your stuff together, and yes, it's cost you the extra 9,000, but the 45,000 now forms your deposit. So now you're not missing out on the property, and you can afford to get your stuff together before the house prices go up. If this makes sense to you, just put a comment, explain, or put a comment yes in somewhere where you can. I know that YouTube's a little bit different and Facebook's a little bit different, and I'm streaming this on a few different platforms. If it makes sense, let me know, and if you've got any questions, just send me a DM. But here's the thing, you're now not missing out on the bits that are the scary bits, which is the increase every year. Because if you get priced out, if you wait 3 years and all of a sudden your $3 million house has gone up 10% every year, that's now a $3.9 million house. And if you couldn't afford $4 million today, then in 3 years' time you probably can't afford $4 million. So it can go up very quickly, but it doesn't need to. You can do it the right way. It's very simple. You're buying a property, you're settling on it, not straight away, you're settling on it in 6 months' time, and during the 6 months you're renting it. In other words, you live in the property. And hey, let's be fair, you're probably going to buy a house in the suburb you want to live in anyway. So we're going to call this rent to buy. Overseas they call it a wrap deal or a sandwich deal. They call it an option with a or sometimes both. Don't get complicated about it. Keep it really simple. The simple thing is, it's a rent to buy. You rent it today, you buy it later. Who's going to say yes to this? So you might be thinking, what's the objection from the other side? Why doesn't everybody do this? So the people that are likely to say yes to your option are the people that don't have the urgency to get paid. If they're not being chased by creditors, if they're not urgent, but they want a fair price for it, then you can usually tell because they're not putting this up for auction. They're usually so what I do as a buyer's agent is I look for things that are expired listings. An expired listing, after 90 days, it's no longer advertised. So somebody with an expired listing is sometimes willing to sit down and talk about the right numbers, somebody buying it for the right price, and allowing them to rent the premises for 6 months before they buy it. So all they're doing is they're deferring the sale by 6 months' time. That might actually help their taxes. That might actually help their estate. That might actually help them get probate. So there's several things that normally come up in this conversation, and all it is just asking somebody what their needs are. It's just a human-to-human conversation. If you're asking somebody the right way, politely, without being too pushy, but making sure that your needs are met and their needs are met, you'll find a lot of people are willing to at least discuss the situation. Rent to buy isn't a new thing. It's been for 20 years, and a lot of the more popular property brokers that are out there on the speaking circuit, the same type of thing. So when I started, I did this kind of program. I set up we call it an option deal, but I set that up for multiple properties, especially in Oberon. Oberon's a very high rental area that's in New South Wales, 3 hours from Sydney. I've done several option deals or rent to buys in Oberon, and it works really well because it's hard to find a rental. People prefer to buy, but it's so difficult to find a property at times that actually suits. And so if you have a property that's in an area that has good transport, that has good jobs, that's the kind of property that somebody is willing to rent, and they can afford to pay the rent and the extra $300 a week to cover the option fee. So that's it about rent to buy. But send me a quick replay if you're watching the replay, or let me know if you caught this live, because I'm interested also in your time zone. I'm on the train to Heathrow Airport at the moment, so I'll come to you next time from Sydney in a few days' time. And let me know if you want the 12 o'clock London time, which is now, as the regular transmission for my lives, or if you prefer to do it during Sydney time. Anyway, I'll catch you on the flip side.